Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. This is episode 3 of season 2 for the interview series, and I am so excited to have Torian Ugworji here today with us. We have collaborated with each other over the past year to create a dance film entitled Symphonic Variations, which we have yet to release, but we are still working through that, and we are excited to continue to finish that up and also share that with everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and let Torian take it away and let him introduce himself.
Thank you, Kara. My name is Torian Ugworji. I'm an artist, filmmaker, teacher in Philadelphia at a school called Science Leadership Academy. And yeah, I've known Kara for about since 2012, 13.
Yeah.
And it's nice to, jump on a project with you.
So how did you find filmmaking? Did anything or anyone specifically inspire you?
So I wouldn't consider myself like a film buff. Like I didn't really care for films. How I got into filmmaking was my mom had a point and shoot camera, and I would want to see myself dancing because in high school I started learning how to crump, and I was like, oh, I want to see myself. It'd be cool to like film myself crumping. So I like set up the camera like on a tripod or like on the side of a wall or something like that, and started dancing. And I would put it up on YouTube. And so that became a daily habit or a frequent habit until I got to college where I was like, I want to learn something new. So I joined the Kinetic Imaging program and got into learning about cameras and lighting and like filmmaking. And it just kind of took off from there.
You obviously have a background or just a relationship with movement and dance. How has that relationship grown over the years, and how does it influence your work as a filmmaker?
So from the initial start of being part of the B-Boys in high school and dancing to like always going to like all of the dance, like high school dance events, because I went to Thomas Dale High School, which is a performing arts high school, well, especially Center for the Arts high school. And I was just like fascinated with the dancers on stage doing modern performance. Now it was a little annoying, but I was always there watching the shows, and I feel like that never stopped. Even when I went to VCU, just watching the dance performances at VCU Dance, and then I started incorporating that into my practice because a teacher decided we'll take a class and we'll take our art class and go to a dance class and do like a collaboration. And from there, I've been collaborating with dancers in the dance department and professionally for about 8 years.
Yeah. And even in college, you were doing work and projects for dancers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What is it about movement that you really enjoy? And how do you use filmmaking to capture and also demonstrate movement? How did the two go hand in hand with one another?
All right, so this may be a little dense, but I feel that movement is connected to God, and an expression from like within our spirits. Like, if we, I grew up in church and praise dance, and it's not just movement to like for the sake of like angles and like looking cool. It is a communication and a language that I feel like is in a higher being, our higher being selves. And so just me thinking about that, I'm learning anytime I'm in like watching a dancer, like for like filmmaking or just a show, I'm looking at how they express themselves, and letting me know how they move. Like our bodies hold so much experience. And as we like put that outward, we are like telling people like the more complex and nuanced language of our souls. And so I try to make that, or I try in my filmmaking to bring that out. But also I just try to understand that as I'm watching different dance pieces.
So movement for you is a very personal experience and journey.
Yeah.
All right. So Torian, I just want to know, aside from our project, Symphonic Variations, What projects are you currently working on?
So I have a group called IMI Collective, which is a group of 4 artists. Myself, Rob Gibson, Tevin Habibullah, and Marquise Hazelwood, who we come together and make music and like projects like music videos, art, poetry, stuff like that in the performance nature. And so we have a project called Enjoy or Die.
Wow.
To go with a little Halloween spooky, like end of the year theme. Though Christmas is vastly approaching, we're trying to get that project out soon. Other projects I've been working on, In the Morning with Jasmine Lene, a short film about mental health and being a teacher, being a queer teacher. And I guess I would say the last project that has really been big is I'm writing a personal film called Sunset Boy about a dead Black boy who comes back to life.
Wow, so you're staying busy.
Very.
Who are you currently inspired by, and why? It can be in any, like, it doesn't have to be in filmmaking. It can be in anything.
So right now, as I said earlier, I'm working on a film about a Black boy who has died and is coming back to life, or who had died and is now come back to life. And my inspiration is really just walking around my block in my neighborhood and seeing Black children like play with each other in the streets. Because in a way, the streets have been portrayed as such a dangerous environment. And to see that even in being that dangerous environment, there are like moments of fun and childlike banter and play. And like, there's 2 kids that were just walking, they were talking about superheroes. And I'm like, that's inspirational to me because it's not the narrative that I'm seeing constantly.
What other organizations or artists have you worked with or collaborated with like regularly? Who are those people that, typically kind of come back around and pop back up?
So a lot of people in the VCU dance world, VCU dance department, whether it's VCU dance the department itself, MK, Dr. Gainel Sharad, Anna Lil Gavino, a dancer in Philadelphia, Johnny Mercer, who's dancing in New York City. A lot of people from college, to be honest. Like, I had a great time in college, and I've found that a lot of my professional work is with people that I've met in college, and that have been connected to the people that I've met in college.
For someone who's interested in filmmaking and pursuing that as a career, what advice would you give them? Maybe it's someone who's in high school or someone who's in college that's working on their degree, and is about to enter the professional field.
I would say make a lot of work. Always constantly be making, and it doesn't have to be anything like grand or big. And you don't have to use that as a statement like, oh, I haven't made anything big, I'm not going anywhere. Develop your sense of self within your work. So like, if you're a director and you like directing, we'll start building projects where you could be the director in. Or if you're like a filmmaker, find people that are doing projects where you could be the cinematographer in. Or take photos and just keep doing things and putting it out there. Because the more that you put it out there, the more the world sees what you're doing, and then they bring more to you. Now, it may be a slower process, but then, in the blink of an eye, because time goes by really fast, you'll find yourself having a lot of things that you're just like, wow, I got this job, and now I'm getting paid this much, and I'm getting this opportunity. Like, it just, you steadily working, and it all happens for you. Just don't stop.
I think too, just making allows you to do lots of trial and error, at least like thinking about choreography wise. If you make the first thing you make is probably not going to be like amazing, but you will have learned things. And you're like, okay, I know what to do better next time. So when you do get that gig, you do get that job, like you'll have more knowledge because you made so much.
I find that part interesting of like, sometimes the things that you make aren't going to be what you thought they were. But that doesn't mean that, you know, let it go and then let more things come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you teach at the Science Leadership Academy up in Philadelphia. So how do you encourage and engage with your students in regards to videography and film?
So the first thing, my job is to teach kids film. And so in allowing them to learn film, I allow them to play. I think playing in school, especially in high school, is kind of like a foreign subject. Like we as kids get older, we like cut the play out, and be more like, you have to think about college and it's so strict and you have to do this and by this and you get points off like that. And playing is way of learning. Like the only way I learned how to use the camera was just by playing. And no one told me you had to do this, that, and the third. I just started doing things and it was trash. And then I kept refining it and like, I'm gonna try this now. I'm gonna try this until I finally developed my own style. So with my students, I let them learn through playing. Like, here, get your hands on the camera. Yeah, you don't know how to use it, but go ahead and try. And so they develop their own questions. And when you have your own questions, you allow yourself to learn versus someone saying, learn this. All right. And then you just like went one ear and out the other.
Yeah. What do you find that they enjoy the most about your class and about what you're teaching them? Like what really, like what gets them excited?
There's one aspect of it where I like to include social time. So the students to talk and like bounce ideas off each other. And even if it's not about the class, they're having the ability to like almost like figure out where their engagement is for that day. So that's one aspect of it, which I don't feel like kids normally get a chance to experience. But then when we get into the actual making of it, there are no like students always praise that it's not textbook. It's more like, oh, I can actually figure out where I want to enter this medium into, and then make something and then get to show it. And I think that part is like really fun for them.
Yeah, you probably teach different grade levels, but
Okay.
but what kind of projects are they working on right now?
So they just finished up a research project where they like went and found different photographers. So my students are working. My students are in grades 10th through 12th. So it's the upperclassmen, not the freshmen. And they research like a photographer or a cinematographer whose visual style they find interesting. And so they like learn about like the type of style, the type of I call them elements of design.
Okay.
Like, are they using contrast or texture or line, like line sight, repetition, stuff like that. And then they talk about that in their presentation, and then they have to go in and recreate their own image in that kind of photographer style. So
Okay.
that's what we're doing now. And then we're spending a whole semester developing their own gallery. So they're going to get their pictures printed out and have to showcase them in the gallery.
Let's just dive into our collaboration that we're still working through, which is Symphonic Variations, a dance film that utilizes the score entitled Symphonic Variations and is inspired by Frederick Ashton's ballet work that was released back in the 1940s in England. So we first began our discussion, I believe, earlier in this year in 2021. On your end, what is typically the first thing that you need from a choreographer or director when beginning to discuss a film project?
I want to say vision. Like sometimes people have like an idea but no vision. So like an idea is like, oh, I want to like do a video where I'm outside. It's like, okay, that could be literally anywhere,
Yeah.
and done anyway. But with the vision, you have like a sort of feeling or guidance that you're willing to like I guess you have a journey that you're willing to take. I look at every collaboration as this journey that, you know, we're one place and we're trying to end up in another place. And what does that mean for like the work that we're doing, for the opportunities that come afterwards, for the new things that we can learn and experience. So I think vision is the answer to that question.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think in terms of vision, like also what specific things are you looking for? Like location, you know, or like just the overall goal of what do you want to do with this?
I don't think necessarily about that. Maybe I should be more discerning. I feel like a lot of it is really like, do I think the project is going to be fun? That's not even true. Do I feel like the project is going to be interesting?
Okay.
'Cause I've been asked to do collaborations, and the vision of the person switched up, and I had to do something else, and I didn't have the time commitment to do it, and then they dropped me from the project, and it was like the first time that I've ever really been dropped from a project.
And with Symphonic Variations, I wanted to film outside. I think we had discussed that pretty early on. And in terms of outdoor filming, what are the key factors that you have to consider? Or the key factors that we considered?
There's when we first like came to the table, it was like, all right, I want this to be outside. I have this music. It's going to be very modern dance, like, you know, the element was a lot of movement in nature. And I think what we like discussed was like, okay, yes, there's movement in nature, but like, what is like our color palette? Like the costumes are going to be, you know, red and green and many different colors, or flowers, or like. And I think if I'm getting you right, you were like, they're not supposed to be human. They're these like, there's the spirit of movement within nature. And I think going into that, a part of me wanted to find the right location, like find these locations that were, you know, felt almost like you're looking at a landscape. And then you come out of it and you're like, oh yeah, those are people too. Like it's just in a beautiful environment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, because we filmed this project at Pocahontas State Park, and then we also used it was another park in Chester, Virginia. So we specifically went to Pocahontas and walked around and looked at different locations. And I remember, you know, you were saying like, we were thinking about the dancers. How are they going to dance on leaves or this ground? Are they barefoot? You know, what time of day are we filming? Because that makes a big difference as well.
I think, you know, the funny part about it is all of that planning that we did, and nothing could prepare us because it's just so different. Like, you know, one day it's like scorching hot outside, and the next day is like overcast.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, we still got to put it together. These are our dates.
Right.
I remember like overbringing stuff, and I was like, yeah, I got all these lights, and it didn't work out. And I was like, oh, well.
Yep. Or we walked to the first spot at Pocahontas State Park and a tree had fallen down right where we were going to dance.
Yeah.
So we definitely were not prepared for that, but
anything about, I did say this to you, expect the unexpected.
How did we continue our collaborative process while I was in rehearsals with the dancers? Now I remember filming everything. We filmed every phrase, every chunk of movement that we were planning to include in the film and shared that with you. How does having the choreography ahead of time or being able to review it, how does that help you or assist you for filming?
So, really trying to understand vision, or like understand someone's process, because I have my own process and then you had your own process, Kara. And so we like have these two different languages that we're trying to share, and a lot of that was like trying to find like the common denominator. Like, all right, you're thinking about this. All right, if I think about what this movement is like, we can like essentially I can start saying things to you in a filmmaker's language that you start to understand. Oh, if I choreograph things like this is what I'm going to need. And I think that it was a lot of back and forth, really thinking about like what the feeling of the dance would feel like on video, because it's very interesting. You go from that small contained space in a theater, and then all of a sudden it's just like vast.
Yeah.
And I think one of the conversations was like, the space is going to open up. That you're not going to be under yourselves as much as you are in that space, and the ground is not going to be as even, which provides this whole new challenge that you can kind of prepare for, but like until you actually get there and like feel it, it just takes some time to get used to it.
Yeah. The elements, that's what was, I think, the craziest for sure. Rehearsing in a dance studio barefoot and then going to rehearsing on dancing on uneven ground with rocks and sticks and leaves. Yeah. We have some fun bloopers from that. I know that we do. What mode were you in while we were filming, or what's your typical like go-to filming mode? What are you thinking about? What's your process? Are you just in the moment? Are you thinking ahead?
I think about the people and like where everybody's at. Film doesn't like lie, and so if somebody is not in the right mood, or if like things aren't on set aren't feeling smooth, then all of a sudden the film looks tense because people are feeling tense. And so really try on set to like make it more of like a fun, like not even fun, like relax, it's gonna be easy, take as much time as you need, reassuring type of approach, so that the people who are working in collaboration with me know that, at the end of the day, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be great. You just got to get through it, because it's always this, like, you think of film, you're like, oh, it's going to be so much easier. And you get there, you're like, I have to do this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I'm mad. Like, you've done this 5 times. You have to have it.
Yeah. And that's another big thing about stage performance versus film.
Yeah.
Everyone might do something like 5, 6, 7 different times. When we were like actually filming and in the filming process on the filming days at Pocahontas Park and at the park in Chester, when you are literally filming, when you have the gimbal, you're using the gimbal, or you've got the camera on the tripod, what are you trying to capture in that moment?
To be honest, the movement, and not like the movement of the dancers, but the movement of the piece, to really give it a sense of like, when we think about anything in film, like narration is the movement. This happens and this happens and this happens because this happened, this is happening, right? With dance, it's a little bit different. So like, I always hate when I see dance and it's a still frame, because dance doesn't, I don't know, just you can't contain dance. Uh, and so when you're watching it in person, your eyes can go to many different things. Your eyes move, but when you still like it's stuck on a camera on a tripod locked down, you're not getting to see that movement as much. And sometimes it works because it could be a very contained kind of rhythm within the piece. But at least for this, we're in nature. Nature doesn't stay still. Like even if it looks still, a tree's still waving or like
Mm-hmm.
wind is going through. And I was trying to capture the essence of like the world being alive while these dancers are dancing there.
Yeah, because when you're watching film, like the audience doesn't get to choose what they're seeing. The filmmaker, the videographer, whomever chooses that for them.
Yeah.
So would you equate the camera to like the eyes of the audience member?
So I don't think about it as the eyes as much as I think about it as the environment.
Okay.
And yeah, you could say it's the eyes, but that for me as a filmmaker, a point of view shot is what the eyes are. So I'm like, oh, I'm pretending like the camera's there in person. I try to make it so that almost like those 4D roller coasters where like it's like spraying water on you and like shifting you around, but like you're still sitting there.
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to like capture this environment for you, for the audience to kind of be enveloped in this space, even though they're just sitting there.
So you, as a filmmaker, you welcome the audience into the film.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you see and visualize the final product on filming days? Or does the final product not necessarily cross your mind other than wanting the audience to be, a part of the movement of what they're seeing?
I think for the final product, it's about how it's presented. Like and this has only been in the past, like maybe since 2020, like the shutdown, COVID, whatever. I really started thinking about this because we put a lot of things online. We see a lot of things online, and like no longer is about like anybody seeing it. Like, oh, I need all these people to see it, so I'll make it as accessible. And I'm like now more worried about how does someone see this? Like, if this film was portrayed in a gallery or a movie theater, your mind, you can be more immersed into it versus like looking at it on your phone. And so I really think about where are the audience at when they stumble upon or like are engaging with this media.
And I was going to bring up the pandemic and how film has been affected by the pandemic. Like, what are the things that you've also noticed since 2020? What's different?
I think there's been a shift in what people like want to see or how people want to see things. So like I think about Netflix having those series, and so like you don't get one movie or one TV show episode and you have to wait every week. It's now like here's a couple of episodes and you can watch it on your own time. And like people catered towards that. At the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was talking about Carol Baskins and the Tiger King. Tiger King?
Yeah.
Tiger King. And it's like, is that a documentary? Is that a reality TV show? What is this? Like, how are we consuming it? And, you could have seen one episode, you could see 100 episodes, or I'm not sure, 20 episodes, how many episodes it was. And, decided your own pace of consuming that content versus like a movie where you have to sit there and dedicate 2 hours and it's an event versus like a TV show where it's 30 minutes and then you just go to the next thing. The way that we engage with media has changed. But I also feel like on the opposite side, some things happen. So like, numbers game, like this needs to come out. So like you put a movie on the screen and it's like on the, on your television or your computer, and it doesn't feel the same. It's not gonna have the same weight as if you were watching it in a movie theater or if you were like outside in you know, a park somewhere and someone set up a tent, not a tent, movie sheet to like project the movie onto.
Yeah. Has your process or your creative vision changed at all?
I've definitely, like, for myself and as a filmmaker and a photographer and a creative, have started leaning heavily more towards the physical. Like what can be created in the physical. Like where this is funny because there's been a whole shift to the digital, NFTs and like subscription services and like mobile games and whatever. Um, I like look at, you know, what is something that I can hold and like, you know, can last forever with care versus these things that you'll never touch but can be important.
Yeah.
Um,
Why is that?
I think, you know, objects you have with certain objects you can have a relationship with them, um, and not like romantic relationship, but like, you know, care and say like, oh, I have a bike. This bike, I'm gonna make sure that it's maintenance. It's gotten me from point A to point B, so I can deck it out, change its color. Like it's the way that I can interact with it is different than a digital piece where I could possibly interact with it, but then it becomes something entirely different. It's no longer the thing that I cherish.
I definitely feel you on people wanting shorter bits of media and not, you know, necessarily sitting through longer things. That's definitely, that's a big thing these days. Okay.
Now, can I reverse that question? Because I want to know, as a choreographer for you, what happens when, you know, it's not about choreographing a 30-minute piece, it's about choreographing a 6-second video or a 1 minute.
Oh. I can't say that I've actually choreographed like a 6-second or very short, brief phrase or mini dance, I guess. Now I've made phrase work for classes, you know, to teach in a class and have filmed that and shared it across social media. I definitely would prefer to still make work that's longer in length as opposed to like a very short piece. Now, and you bring up a good point because it makes me wonder now, do people want to sit through a long show? Do they want to sit through a dance that's 30 minutes?
Well, and so here's the funny thing about industry, because there's always long form and short form. And even in film, we're seeing that a lot more people want short form things, and you can make a lot of money to say, all right, this thing that I spent 30 minutes on to create like a minute short form video, like let's say like a trailer, that can net me 10 times as much money as if I did a long form thing because of just the quick rapidness of that interaction. So pay $1, you get to watch this 30-second thing. Boom. All right, cool. You know, I'm this hypothetical versus, all right, pay $20 and you get to sit with me for this hour. You know, like we look at the like how VCU Dance has their senior show, and it's like, all right, that's an hour, but maybe the families only came to see that one person's piece that was like 15 minutes. But now they're here for the hour. And so we get past this thing now. It used to be like, we have to justify this $20 with time. But now it's no longer justified with time. People are like, no, I'm going to keep my $20 and save myself some time. But I might give you $20 to like give me a recap of what's going on that show and what I should see. You know, it's a very interesting environment that we're moving into.
Yeah. Now, I do think arts, and especially performing arts and dance, it's an experience. And I do see also a shift into creating even more of an experience for audience members that are coming physically to see something being performed or something being shown. How having them be a part of that experience in some way, shape, or form, I think is holding people's attention for a little bit longer.
And I agree with that. I mean, I think experience is one thing, but there, you know, just recognizing that with the pandemic and COVID, it's opened up this whole new realm, like TikTok dances, like, you know, that's, they even, you know, even before that, when Fortnite came out and they started stealing the people's dances, and like making money, like you can buy that dance for your character for, you know, $3, and now all these kids are paying it, and it's like, well, the person who made this dance, sorry for the whack dance, but
they're fine.
The person who made this dance, you know, they're not making any money, but the person who programmed it, that dance for their characters, has now netted $1 million. And it's like, whoa, that can happen? Like, you can dance like that? Interesting. And so I feel like we're at the cusp of looking at movement and experience, and yes, having the digital, but I mean the physical, but also thinking about what does it look like in the digital realm.
So when we wrapped filming, because we had 2 days of filming, how much reflection did you do after that? And then what were your next steps after we were completely done filming everything?
So when we wrapped filming, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
It was I don't want to say treacherous day. It was a very hot day. Humid day. There we go. It was a very humid day. And it was just like, all right, finally we get done. And then you get looking like, so for me, I immediately look at the footage and get to like look at like just the different shots. And I tend to like show it to somebody like, all right, what do you think? Because like, I think it looks good because I filmed it, but I don't know what other people are thinking. And it's always interesting to see how people look at it and they go like, what the, showed it to somebody and they were just like, this is like goddesses, like in the nature, and like I've never seen something like this. And it's interesting because I'm like, for somebody who's been in the dance world, we, you know, you always craft this this environment on stage, and then so try to translate that on film. You know, it may not work, it may work, and you know, the lack of control always is frustrating. And so I'm like, oh, this could have been better. This lighting is a little different from this. But then when I start to put it all together and we get this long form film, it's like, whoa, like this journey is very like engaging in a way. And like, you just find different things to kind of like view, but also as a filmmaker, as the editor, I'm always also looking at the things that aren't working as well. Now, some things you know, the things that aren't working for me are like blooper stuff. And then like, I would give it to you and you're like, oh, no, off the foot. I'm like, off the foot, what does that mean? This person right here, nah, like we got to find a better clip for that. And so that portion is like interesting because I don't necessarily look at the film in that way, but it's always like everybody has a different eye and looks at it differently.
So, and you know, that sheds light on like your editing process and your collaboration, like our collaboration together with the editing, and you'll make something and I'm like, somebody's laughing right there, somebody makes a face right there, you know, we can't, you know, we can't have that in there. But what else has it been like to edit this film? I'm sure in some ways I probably don't make it easy for you.
I think you know, me and you have a very different I guess style of like, it's interesting to see how you would be a filmmaker and then versus how I'm a filmmaker. and we are with mutual respect, but it's like also like this interesting thing of like how you approach it through like the choreographic lens. Like I remember you were like, it has to line up with every beat and every minute. And I'm like, now if it lines up, there's this moment where somebody is not right in every single take. So like I can either hide it and like move something over a little bit, or we could be like lined up exactly perfectly. And you're gonna see a mess up. So I think we got to a point where like we're like, all right, let's put the basis as, you know, here's the mess ups, and like it just goes through, look at that, and then go, okay, now what can we do to make this feel more fluid?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I was like, this is how I want it. And then I realized I couldn't have it that way. And that just wasn't what was going to be best for it.
Yeah.
So I had to let go and also just be like, you know what, Torian, you know what you're doing. If your gut is telling you to make a certain choice or decision in terms of editing, go with that. But still staying true to the vision and the end product. Let's touch on briefly where we're at right now with the film. We're still in the final editing process, and
much, I was gonna say pretty much the film is done. There's like we're now in the final pass of like, okay, this now with these changes, it's like you change one thing and then everything changes. So it's like now with these changes, here's what needs to be put into place, or try to figure this out. And if we can't figure this out, like how do we find some way to mask it? But it's like there are no holes in it, right? It's like from beginning to end.
Yeah.
There is a film there.
Yeah.
And now it's like making sure that it's polished.
Yeah. And when you're finishing up all of your projects that you work on, that you collaborate with other people on, when you hand somebody, here's your finished product, what are you hoping that you're giving them, or that they're able, like, what are you hoping that they're then able to take that, and what's your goal for them? Or who's receiving it?
So there's not one finished final product. There's like 5.
Okay.
I'll send it and they'll go, read through, and they're like, oh, this thing, I don't know if I like this. Let's go back in. So, you know, that usually is like a back and forth conversation to make sure that what we're sending out is without a doubt the best thing that we're sending out. And then a lot of it is really just, my hope is that they take it and think of it as like a piece of media that they're proud to share, or like, you know, have some plan for it. Once I make it, like my role in planning of it is done. Like it's out of my hands now. And I also, like, you know, there was this whole debacle, and another project was like all the people who work on it, and you give it to that one person who like is the owner or like the producer. It's like now they get to decide, and if they don't, you know, put it out, no one knows all that work that they've done.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird, like, even with our process, like the dance is wrapped, and like everyone's like, yeah, we're done. Like we're like, this project is done for us. And then for me, it's like I gotta keep going. And it's like, all right, boom, 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 boom. And then they, you know, what has it been? 3 months now? 3 months later.
Since July, since we filmed.
Yeah, is it August, September, October? 4
months
later.
Almost 4.
Yeah, 4 months later, and then it's like, all right, here you go, look at this, and they're like, whoa, I almost forgot. Like, but this thing is like, it's still been, you know, building, because it's just one. You get to see one piece of it, and then, you know, you just trust that it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I'll say too, I think for this project, for Symphonic Variations specifically, you know, we wanted to get it done by like end of August, the editing, and it's November. I mean, we didn't have like a specific, like it has to be done for this specific thing. So it's just been nice to have time to get it done right. I think too with artists, especially with dance artists, you know, we're always working towards a performance of some sort. You know, we have the dates on the calendar and it's like stuff has to get done by this date, and it doesn't allow us enough time to really go back through and just play with stuff, change stuff, look at it differently. You know, we're always like, okay, finished product. We have to have a finished product. Are most projects that you work on, do they have a specific deadline?
So the thing with film is like film takes a lot longer than necessary, or like than anticipated, not necessary. So even with our deadline in August, it's like, all right, you put it out there and it could have been what it was in August, but then it would be like, something's off. And then you have to like figure out what that is going to be. There's some projects that are just like simple, cut, dry, like I need you to do this, that, and it's like a technical edit. But whenever you're building something that's of the creative essence, you want to make sure it aligns to the original vision. And sometimes that original vision has a different journey that it needs to take to get there. And so I find a lot of the projects that I work with on the creative side take longer. On the simple cut, like, hey, you filmed this thing, can you cut this section and send it to me? That's, that has a deadline and that's easily done. But going back to it, it's like, the creative projects have the journey, they have a life. It's not just do this thing and it's done. It's like, do this thing, watch it. Does it feel right? All right. If yes, then okay, watch it, have someone else watch it. And does it communicate right? With more simple and cut dry things, it's like, do this thing, I don't care, just get it done by the deadline, I'm gonna send it off. And it's not like anybody's, there needs to be emotional connection to it. Things take more time to develop.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And I have to remind myself that I'm a very, very perfectionist, achievement oriented kind of person. And if something isn't quite right or doesn't look quite finished, it just, can just drive you nuts. But I think you just have to remind yourself nothing's ever going to be fully finished, especially in regards to art.
Well, and just to piggyback off of that, things also need to take on a different form. Like you could have Symphonic Variation, drop the film and say, you know what, since making this, I found the underlying inkling is that I want to do more things in nature. And so it had nothing to do about the music. I'm a musician, and now I'm going out in nature. It's going to be a solo, and I'm in the water, and then I'm in the dirt, and and it's like that came from that Symphonic Variation project where you thought it was about this one thing, but really your underlying inkling wanted to manifest itself differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to you saying, your recommendation to people, high school students or college students that are pursuing a career in film or want to, and you just telling them, hey, just make things, build your body of work, because again, like you doing one project can lead you to doing another project. So yeah, absolutely. So last thing, where can people find you and support your work?
So my artist tag, which I think I'm the only person who has this artist tag, is T Serendipity. So like serendipity, like tsunami, but it's T Serendipity. And that's serendipity.com. So TSERENDIPITY.com is my website. If you look for Serendipity on Instagram, you'll find me. The only thing I think, even my Vimeo is Serendipity, or it's my name, Torian Ugworji. So Serendipity or Torian Ugworji. So Torian, Torian, Ugworji, UGWORJI.
All right, but thank you so much, Torian, for joining us today. I'm excited to keep working on Symphonic Variations and also show that. And I hope people enjoyed the sneak peek clips during this interview. So thank you so much.
All right, no problem. Thank you.